What's up, everyone? Aaron Schatz here, Editor-in-Chief of ASE Publishing, and today we've got another review for you. This time it's the D-Link DCS-2530L Full HD 180-degree Wi-Fi camera. This is review ID 57641. You can check out this and all our reviews by going to www.aselabs.com. I'm going to save you the trouble, though. You're probably watching this on YouTube right now, and if you're watching this on ASE Labs, there is a little YouTube button in the player. You should hit that, and then you should hit the subscribe button that's located right below where I'm pointing. It is nice and red, and it says subscribe. You hit that, you'll be informed of all the content as we post them. We only post videos these days. We have unboxings, we have the 1-minute review. Speaking of the 1-minute review, if you don't have time to actually watch these very long-form reviews that we do, check out the 1-minute review. You'll be really slightly informed, and then you're going to have to go back and watch the actual full review to actually see everything about this product. This is a full review, so let's get into the 2530L. If you haven't seen the unboxing, I'm not going to post it anywhere because I'm going to show you what comes in the box right now. You get the 2530L, and let's see what's in this box. You get some mounting screws and such, literature, and reach down here. There. Micro USB AC adapter, and now you don't have to see the unboxing. Let's take a closer look at the 2530L camera itself. Now, to start off with, you can see that the size is vastly different than the 2630L, and in fact, in the next shot, I'll actually show you a size comparison. Anyway, we're reviewing this thing right now, so let's go into this. So basically, newer D-Link cameras have this nice pivoting and swivel action. So if you, let me show you some interesting stuff here. If you wanted to mount this upside down, there's a this actually unlocks here. You can actually take this off. Come on, get off. So you would mount this to the ceiling, and then you would put this back in, basically like you would a smoke detector. It's the same sort of principle. And then let's say if you wanted to point it down like that, and now you're probably saying, well, now the video is upside down. You can actually change that with here. You could swivel this and then change the entire orientation so it's facing the right side up. But most people are probably just going to leave this on a surface like this, and then no problem, you just turn it down like that. Going around the unit, you've got the micro SD card slot. We'll go into that a little bit later. In the back, you have a WPS button, never works. You have a reset button that's inset. By the way, the WPS button is not a D-Link problem. I just never had it to work on any products I had. Never. I don't know. It's maybe the routers that I have in my house. I have no idea why, but it just never works. At the bottom, you have the micro USB AC adapter port. And on the front, you have a status LED. You have a light sensor to see the actual ambient light in the room, and to turn on the IR LEDs to eliminate for night vision mode, or night mode, I should say. It's not night vision. I guess it is night vision. And on the back, there's actually another status indicator LED, which I'll show you in a little bit. It's time for me to show you the size comparison of the 2530L to the model that it sort of replaces, the 2630L. So let me just show you this. Oh, what's coming into the frame? Whoa! Okay, so even though this is technically the replacement model of this, this does not support two-way audio. I think I said in the unboxing that it probably is a total replacement. It's not. So if you need two-way audio, this is still your bet, and if you already have one of these, don't bother replacing it. That being said, this one technically does replace this one in the market, even though this one does not have two-way audio. Look at the size difference, though. Look at this. Look at it. It's crazy. This one is insanely heavy for a camera. This one is just super light, and basically it's the same specs. So there you go. Look at this. Just look at the difference. It's like, this one's like double the entire volume of everything, and it's like 2 or 3 times heavier than it. It's just absolutely insane what they've done in less than a year to actually shrink the actual components down. And I'm sure most of it was actually heat sinks in this thing, because this one gets pretty hot, and this one doesn't get that hot anymore. So I'm sure the heft of this is all metal heat sinks and such. The other interesting thing is that the power draw of this is, obviously it's like 5 volts because it's USB, and it's 2 amps. This one is 1.2 amps. So there's a power draw difference too. This one draws less power. Though, that being said, even though this, again, does replace the 2630L, this one does not support two-way audio. So if two-way audio is something that you actually love, D-Link's got some cameras coming out in the future, but if you want something right now, 2630L still on the market, and it's still a great product, even with all the heft and the size. The 2530L is basically the same thing as a 2630L minus the two-way audio. So you get 180-degree field of view, you get the full HD 1920 by 1080 resolution. The only real difference is in the administrative interface for the web, the advanced interface that you would log in on a computer. Otherwise, they're pretty much the exact same things. But there are some pretty interesting differences in that interface, which I'll show you in a little bit. As I usually do with cameras, I'm going to actually compare this to a previously reviewed camera. In fact, I'm going to review this to the 936L that I reviewed a couple of months ago. So I'm going to show you a video of the 2530L and the 936L, and then I'm going to impose the 936L right now. So you can see that the 936L shows a bunch of stuff in the frame, but now when I go to the 2530L, you can see a lot more, and the optics are just much more clear. Really, cool stuff. And you can see some creepy guy in the background just poking his head up. My dog is freaking out. But let's move on. It's been a while since I actually guided you through a setup on the D-Link cameras. And the newer D-Link cameras are pretty cool with the QR codes and everything. Makes setup a breeze. Maybe not the least time-consuming process with the waiting around and everything that it happens, but I'm telling you it's an easy process, so let's get started and I'll show you that right now. A wild pencil has appeared. Actually, this is the best way to actually hard reset these units with the reset button that's inset. So, this thing is all reset. It's factory reset, so that means I have to set this thing up. Get your smartphone ready. You can actually do this manually through a computer. So like every camera that's really Wi-Fi or networked camera, even in the old days that this was possible, you basically connect to this camera's Wi-Fi network that it creates, and there's a setup page, and you can do all the settings through there. But with the actual smartphones these days and the QR codes, makes things a hell of a lot easier. When you turn on the camera for the first time, it's going to be put into basically a mode that says, okay, I'm ready to be set up. You can see that with the blinking light in the front here and the blinking light in the back here. Apologies that I can't really just show you that easily because the plug is over there and it's kind of a pain in the ass to get an extension right now. So the blinking orange light means it's ready to go, ready to be set up. There are two ways you can find the QR code. The first one is usually on the product itself. So if you lose the actual installation cards and stuff, you can find it on the bottom right here. There's a little QR code right there. You can scan that when the application asks you to do that. Or if you're setting this up for the first time, you have the box and everything, they give you a QR code on the actual part of the stuff in the box. So find the quick installation card and you can actually scan that pretty easily. So let's do this. Once you actually get the My D-Link Lite application installed, head to the local cameras or remote, doesn't matter. I'll show you the remote cameras. By the way, on the right side, facing my right side at least, which is probably your left side, is the little inset of my phone right here, so you can see that. So let's go to local. I'm going to add a new camera because this is ready to be set up, so hit add new camera. Do you have a QR code in your device or configuration card? Yes, we do. So here it is, and I'm just going to okay, whoop, back, forward, up, down. Come on, focus. There we go. Okay, plug in the power adapter. Okay, we did that. Do we want to use WPS setup? No. Is your camera ready? Check. It's blinking orange. Ready. So now what it's going to do, it's going to connect to the network that this thing makes up for it, and it's going to do all the settings and stuff right now. It's okay. So now it's asking me what Wi-Fi network do I want to use. So obviously I want to use the one that is in my house. So I'm going to hit ASE first, and now here's the interesting part. This is going to show you a plain text password that I'm typing in, so I'm going to blank that out so you won't see the password. And yes, I already told D-Link about that, and I really think that it should be hidden. I understand why it's not, because usually you're the one setting this up and you don't really care about anybody seeing the password, because nobody's really supposed to be looking at your screen. But still, I don't like that you can't hide it. The other thing that's good is that you can see when you actually screwed up the actual password. Okay, here we go. Done. Now that's the password's in there. You hit next. So now it's setting this thing. This thing is probably rebooting now. it stuck me back onto the network that I was at, and now it's probably, yep, it's probably, see the status indicator back here is now red. And now it's green. And that one's green in the front. Now I just got to wait for this thing to detect the camera. So we'll wait a little bit. I told you it was easy. I didn't say it was that fast. And that's the interesting part about doing this in real time. It's interesting to show you how these things work in an actual real setting. So instead of me just cutting this part out, I'm actually showing you the actual time it's going to take for you to set this device up. And we're waiting, letting it do its thing. Okay, now here's the other thing. This is going to ask you for a password for this thing. So this password is going to be used to log into the admin interface. So whatever you set on this camera, just remember it, because you're going to have to use it if you want to set this up for any future things on the admin interface. So again, this is set by plain text, so I'm going to hide the little password stuff here so you don't see my awesome password that I'm putting in. Okay, I'm hitting next. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's going. Okay, we got some blinking LED action here now. This is the twiddle your thumbs moment. Like I said, the camera setup is easy. There are some things that take a little bit of extra time, probably because it's just waiting for the camera, just in case like there's network inconsistencies. Like I noticed my phone just totally going haywire since the last Android update, and I think it's because I don't think I've actually wiped this out since a few Android updates, and it's really time for me to factory reset my phone. Anyway, keep waiting. We're waiting. Here we go. It's going to be good. The downtime. Oh, come on. There we go. So now it says, the time zone has been set according to your phone's region settings. Any further changes can be made in the device settings page. Okay. Let's see where we are taken to now. And yes, I'm still blocking the password. Do you want to add this device to the My D-Link account? Of course I do. At this point, you don't have to. You can, if you wanted to set this up with an NVR, you could say no, and then you can go to the advanced page and do everything from there. So again, this does not have to be set up with a My D-Link account. It does not. You can actually set this up manually on a network if you wanted to. You do not have to actually use the actual smartphone software to do it. You can manually do this by connecting to the network it creates and doing everything manually. So if you saw like a camera review that I've probably done a few years ago, it probably showed you doing something like that. So it would be a similar process. But honestly, you're better off using this kind of stuff to get the thing set up on your network and then doing all the network setup on a computer. It's just a lot easier and flows a lot better that way. And we're waiting. Thing is blinking. Phone is chugging along, doing whatever it's doing. This is the time for elevator music. It's going, it's going, it's going. These initial setup things, I understand why things like this are done. It's to make sure the camera is fully connected. It's to make sure like that if it needs to reboot, you're rebooted. It gives it the time to connect back to the network. I understand why that stuff is on there, but come on. Come on. Networks aren't that bad these days. And I mean, a lot of times you'll see that there's a, if you go into a status page and you say, I want to reboot something, and then it's like 2 minutes long to make sure that it's rebooting, that's kind of crazy. So, still waiting. It's going. Eventually what's going to happen is it's going to just say, oh, okay, it's all set up. So this, generally, if you're setting this camera up, you would just be like, you'd put your phone down and be like, okay, come on, I'm going to come back when it's done. Oh my goodness, hurry up. So the light back here is blinking and the status light in the front is solid. So that probably means that there's network connectivity. So eventually when this goes, it should show me I don't remember what it's going to show me. I think it's going to show me the settings page. Anytime now. So I'll tell you this, that I have 2 routers in my house. One's turned into an access point, and one's actually a Mocha gateway because I have Verizon Fios, and on the Fios connection that I have, I'm using Ethernet instead of the actual coax connection. So I've noticed a lot of times, especially dealing with Chromecast, that, well, that was interesting, so it just threw me back here. And I'm just going to hit next again. Password setting failed. You want to know why? Because it's already set up. So I just think there might be, this is the awesome part about a review. So I'm going to leave this in just to show you guys what happens. So I know the camera's already set up. So if this happens to you, what you're going to do is just hit device list because it's already set up. I can tell you that. So if we go, since it's already set up, watch this. So on my local network, it should show this camera as well. Let's see. Oh, anytime now. I love that. Let's go to remote then. There it is. It's on the network, but sometimes the scanning just doesn't work. So let's go back. Now I'm going to hit refresh. There's the 936L. Come on, show me the other one. Like I said, sometimes network things are just so weird. Okay, so you already set it up. It should be on the network, and it's not. But I'm telling you, it's probably this phone. I'm not necessarily sure that it's this thing. But since you're in remote, I'm going to hit the 2530L. Again, I don't know if this is necessarily the camera problem or my network, because my network's been going nuts lately. And like I said, I think I need to reset this phone. So anyway, we're going to connect to the camera and I set everything up. I can tell you that it works. And you can hear it through here. So I'm going to mute that, and this is just like any other D-Link camera that's already set up. So I can take a photo with this little button on the second button over. I could change this to 1080p if I wanted to for the actual live streaming. I don't want to. This is for the night vision, so if I can set it to day or night mode, and I'll show you what happens on night mode. You'll hear an audible click, and then the IR LEDs turn on. I don't know if you can see that, but they're on right now. And then this thing goes to black and white. Honestly, auto works fine. Now, when I originally got this camera, the night vision, just the auto sensing night vision just was totally broken. Didn't make sense at all. I worked with D-Link saying, like, you know, you guys got to, you know, fix the night vision mode. A couple of firmwares later, they did. Works fine now. I still recommend putting it on the lowest settings if you go into the advanced software, but right out of the box now with the new firmware, everything works fine, so nothing to worry about there. Let's say you actually want to do some additional setup with the camera. Let's go into that right now. To get into the advanced settings, you hit this little, I forgot what they're called. It's the menu thing, the little 3 buttons on the top here. So there's 4 settings right now that are kind of weirdly laid out, but there you go. I actually want to show you something interesting. So let's just say that you have a micro SD card here, but you don't have an NVR in your network like a Synology NAS, so you can actually put all this stuff in a central location, but you still want the functionality there. This software gives you that functionality if you have storage. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop this little micro SD card in here, if I orient it correctly. And we're going to set that up in a little bit. So let's get that all, let's make sure it's all detected. So live view is the view we just saw. We don't need to see that. Push notification is interesting. So what push notification does, I'll show you. So if I enable push notification, it's going to show me all the cameras. So the sound is, do you want to be annoyed when a notification occurs? So I can actually set this to be like, oh yeah, inform me when a push notification. It's probably setting up the camera thing. Come on. Okay. That's what happens when you stick in a micro SD card. You got to wait for the camera to do its stuff. Anyway, so once that's actually enabled, if motion or sound or whatever event occurs, it's going to send you a notification on your device. However, I don't like it strictly because the application does not support geofencing right now, which just means that I can't set a location saying, like, if I'm in this location, don't send me push notifications. Meaning, if I'm in my house, I don't need to know that somebody's in my house because it's probably me, right? So if my phone's in my house, I'm in my house, don't send me push notifications. I heard, and I'm not confirming or denying this yet, but I heard that there's an update to the application ecosystem that D-Link has, and hopefully that feature will be supported sooner or later, so we'll look out for that. Now let's go back. We're going to go into settings. This is the slightly advanced settings because the actual advanced settings are on the computer interface, and we'll show that in a little bit. So let's just see, look at the time zone. This is the other thing you're going to want to set up. I'm telling you, I think, because this works fine when I set this up before, and this new version of Android that I put on my phone is just completely breaking it. So the time zone, you're going to have to want to check to make sure that's right. Every other time I've done this, it works, it detected Eastern. And if it didn't detect Eastern, what it did detect was GMT -5, which was, what, Bogota or something? Let me go see over here. Yeah. So you just want to make sure that it's set at the time zone that you have. Generally, it's Eastern because, you know, East Coast. There you go. If you're on the West Coast, don't care. Okay, let's go back. Now, if you want to change Wi-Fi setting, you would do that into this menu. We don't need to do that because we actually set this up already. If I wanted to disable the camera LED in the front, I would hit this little button here. And the little green LED went off. So if you want to hide the camera that it's on or off, you can do that, but I like it showing, so there you go. Put that back on. Now, if you had a couple devices that are the same, you can name them. For instance, I can name this downstairs or whatever. So you're allowed to do that here. Here's the interesting part. Now that I have the SD card in there, I want to enable motion detection enabled recording. So you go into motion detection. You can do this in sound as well. Let it do its thing. We're going to turn on motion detection. If I hit the freaking button, there you go. Now, you hit recording by motion detection. That's really all you need to do. But if you wanted to actually set the area, because right now it's the entire area, so you can be like, oh, okay, people are going to come in this area here, right near the inversion table, and it's going to walk over in this direction here, and I want all this area too. And that's what I want. And I hit apply. It's going to save it to the camera. And now, the actual SD card will have recordings based on the motion detection. Right from the actual software. This isn't anything advanced that you need to set up in the interface. If you actually want to set up continuous recording, you can do that, but you have to do it in the actual advanced interface on the computer, on the actual web server that this actually sets up. And I'll show you that in a little bit. But now let's just say that you want to view some videos that you actually store on this as an NVR. So you would hit playback, and I'm not going to show you any of the videos because I have videos on here from stuff that's been recorded. So you would go into here, and then you can see some of the videos that I have recorded, and then you can click any of them, and then you could see the videos that it's been recorded. So this is when I was actually recording it non-stop. But that's basically how you do it. Turns it into a quasi-NVR without actually having an NVR. So it'll record this locally, and you can actually view it from the internet, and it works just fine. You got settings here. So basically you could say, like, okay, when my SD card is full, you can either stop recording and notify me, or you can overwrite, which is what I suggest. You probably want to overwrite the stuff. So you continue recording, removing the oldest video, and that's pretty much what you want to do. If you wanted to format the thing, you have to stop the recording first, and then you can format it, but we don't need to do that. And that's it. You can also delete any of the videos, and there you go. That's pretty much it for this software. What we're going to do now is we're going to reset, and I'm going to show you the advanced stuff on the computer, so let's go do that. I can tell you that my phone is really being broken, so I can't really attribute the idiosyncrasies in the software to the actual software itself or the device itself, because you can see that my phone has a purple background now, and that's not the background it's supposed to have. So I can tell you that my phone is really having a tough time lately, so it has to be erased. So I showed you the little I'm leaving the idiosyncrasies in there to show you what happens if you have a problem. So, but generally when I set these things up, I don't have those types of problems, but there you go. Now we're logged into the admin interface on the camera itself. Basically, all you got to do is just figure out the IP address of the camera, which you can probably find out from the Wi-Fi settings and such, or you just look at your router's status page. It'll show on there. Log into the actual device with the password you set up in the software when you actually set the camera up. The administrative username is admin. So it's admin and then the password that you set up with. So here's the interesting part. This is a newer D-Link camera, and as you can see, it's starting to get along with some actual standards-based browser support. So this is a Linux-based browser. It's Firefox on Linux, and it's actually showing some sort of live video feed. Now it's really chunky and slow and such, but it's trying. It's better than any other D-Link camera that I've seen so far. And this interface is actually slightly different than other cameras I reviewed in the past. So why don't we just get into it and I'll show you what I mean. So here's the live video page. Great, it actually sort of works. You can see that it doesn't really update that often, so it is what it is. But at least it's showing me something. Now the setup, let's see what we got. Okay, now this is the guided setup, which we are not going to do, but if you actually connect it to the camera directly and want to manually set it up, you can go through this guided setup. We don't need to do that, we already set it up. What you can do is you can individually go into the network setup, set static IP addresses, enable UPnP, all that good stuff. This is pretty much the same kind of stuff that you've seen in most of the actual D-Link cameras. The interesting part is there's a lot of additional settings that I haven't seen. I mean, look at this. You have quality service, IPv6, multicast support. You can tell that this is like their newer setup. I mean, don't get me wrong. This admin interface could really use a facelift. That being said, it gets the job done, and I have no problems with it, but it is kind of slow and a little clunky. So it could use a refresher. I mean, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be complicated, just, a little refresher. Let's go to wireless setup. Okay, you could see that all this stuff is there from the actual setup on the application that I did before. But if you needed to change stuff, you can do it from here. Dynamic DNS. If you had like Dyne DNS or D-Link has their own stuff, you can do it from here. Most of the time, you could do it like, okay. So if you didn't have an NVR or anything, and the NVR didn't have its own service or anything, if you have that micro SD card in the actual camera, you can use like a dynamic DNS service and basically do the same sort of thing. But honestly, the My D-Link cloud software does all that stuff for you, so there's really nothing to worry about. Let's go into image setup. Oh, it's loading. It's loading. Oh my goodness! You can actually see stuff on Linux in Firefox. So this is another example of what I mean by it actually working with a little bit more standards-based stuff, and you can actually see that it's actually updating like once every 3 seconds, but it's still actually updating. So if you want to enable a privacy mask, you can do that, and okay. Oops, I was supposed to do it first. My bad. So if you wanted to enable privacy mask, like, oh my God, fine. Hold on, I'll show you. Now, you can draw an area and then hit enable privacy mask and then hit save, and then that'll go away. So if I hit save, it actually won't, it'll go away, theoretically. I haven't really tried that, and I don't know anybody that would actually use that. So I'm not, to be honest, I don't even know if it'll work. Let's just see. Save. Oh, it actually does work. It's a little clunky. Does work. I'm again, this probably works better on a supported. Oh, it actually does work. How about that? I don't like that though. So let's take it off. Oh, okay. Okay, so back to normal. So now you can see the other image settings in here. The mirror and flip. So if you hit mirror, see if it'll actually show you. Oh, there it goes. Oh, loading. You get the idea. But basically all the settings in here are fairly standard for what's been shown on other cameras. So let's go here. I don't like that there's no save settings on this page. Oh my god. Come on. It's like some of the interface is trying to be asynchronous and then some of it's not. Here's some interesting stuff right now. So there's a few different video profiles. If I remember correctly, when I first got this camera, the firmware actually didn't allow you to do recording into any of the profiles. It was locked to profile 2, and then profile 2 was locked to a lower resolution. That's all been changed now. So you can actually set like the actual recording to use profile 1, profile 2, or profile 3, which is actually the streaming one, which doesn't really matter. This will actually use profile 1 for recording. So you can see that on the SD card, well actually that's not true. You can actually set it up to do whatever you want. But you can change the frame rate if you want. Notice it's only 15 frames a second on 1920 by 1080. This one can go here, and it's again limited, so it's actually a limitation of the camera itself. But you can drop to 720p and have 30 frames a second. And then you can have fixed quality or constant bit rate. Normal stuff like that. And there's some typos in here. Audio in off. Probably meant to say is off. So if you remember what I set up in the actual software, this is the motion detection area that I actually set up in the software. So if I want to enable motion detection, I could just be like select all, and now it's all under motion detection. We want to increase it to like 50. But this can actually be done in the application itself too. So let's go on to sound detection. So right now you can see the level, and there's a TV on there. So I can, if I enable sound detection, I can actually set it to the level, and if there were some loud noises, you would hear them, and this is the threshold that you want to trigger it at. So if you wanted to do that, it does recording by sound detection or push notifications and such. That's pretty cool. I like how it's showing you this on the actual web page too. Again, they're trying for more standards-based stuff, and I applaud that effort. Okay, time zone is Bogota. I'm pretty sure I set Eastern time, which I'll do again. And I'm going to have auto daylight savings time, and it's going to sync to D-Link's NTP server. Probably should have checked that. Like I said, that my Android device is acting really clunky. So, event setup. Now, this was added automatically when you actually enabled SD recording. But look at how clunky this actually is. So this is vastly different than the 936L, which basically you went into like the SD card management and just told it to start recording. So here's what you had to do. If everything was not here, you have to add a server, and the server is an SD card. Then you have to add a piece of media, and the media that you want to record off with the actual video profile. And then you have to add an event. So for instance, the event could be motion detection, or it could be continuous, or stuff like that. And then you tie all that stuff together with the recording. So it ties the profile, the destination, and the event all together. So it's kind of like, this interface is a little bit more clunky than I would like. Again, it's understandable, but you have to understand that you have to set up a server, which basically means where that's going to stick the media. So if I hit server, I'm going to show you something. You can actually send it an email if you need to. And this is where you set the SD card. So if you have an SD card, boom, you put it there. Otherwise, you can actually send an email. Like, I don't understand why all that stuff isn't just in the SD card thing and you're good to go. But whatever, it is what it is. So go back to here. So the media recording, you can either add snapshot, system log, or video clip. Again, I think it's a little overcomplicated, even for the advanced stuff. And then in the events, see, it's motion detection, periodic, or network loss, a system boot. All these are just triggers for the actual event. And then the recording ties all this stuff together. It's a little, like I said, it's a little cumbersome. Gets the job done once you understand it, but it's a little cumbersome. By the way, if you want to use this with an NVR, you can actually just set it up with an NVR. The NVR will go in and get the actual video streams off the device. So it's much easier to use an NVR with this and actually have the NVR do all the work. But I mean, again, the My D-Link software does all this stuff automatically, so you don't have to go into this advanced interface if you don't want to. So if you have stuff loaded on the SD card, this is where you would find it. It's the exact same thing as the My D-Link software, so I'm not going to really go into it. Okay, first thing that you want to actually do in the advanced interface is go to this page, the ICR and IR. So basically this has it's basically a light sensor, and to me it's it's too sensitive, and it says like, okay, right now you can see the sensitivity that I have set is low, meaning less than 10 lux, and it'll actually turn on the IR LEDs and go into night mode. That's what you want to set, because the room to me is well lit right now, and it says it's over 20 lux but over 10 but under 20. And to me it's a little, I think the sensitivity should be a little bit more granular. Like, you should be able to set the actual lux that you want, but set it to low and it gets the job done. Now this was actually updated at the beginning of this month, because before it just stayed in night vision mode the entire time, or worse, like it had real problems, you know, turning off and on the night vision mode. And D-Link finally fixed that, so there you go. At least it works a lot better. But I noticed their newer cameras, they have overly sensitive night vision settings. So I've been setting them to low, and it's just like on the older cameras it would be normal. Moving on. If you want HTTPS, you can set that here, and there's a private key already existed. And look at that certificate information. This is for the actual cloud software and such. But if you have your own, you can put it here. Access lists, if you wanted to have IP addresses that you allow or deny, and there you go. Honestly, it's better to just do this with an actual firewall. Let's go into maintenance. Set a new admin password here. You can add user accounts here. This is where you add it, like, so if you have a user, you can actually do all the stuff in here. So if I added like a guest account, you would see it here, and then do all the crazy stuff. Here's where you set up the actual camera name on the network. And then this is for the actual on-screen, so like it shows you that it says it's the DCS-2530L on the actual screen. It's on the camera feed itself. You can change that here. You can actually turn that off, but I mean most you just leave it on. And here's where you actually turn off the LED in the front, like in the software. In the My D-Link software, this is the enable camera LED. That's that setting. This is where you could save the configuration, or load it, or restore to factory defaults, or you can just get a pencil and jam it into that reset button for like 10 seconds or so until the thing starts flashing. That's the better way. Here's where you can reboot the device, and you can actually schedule the device to reboot, which I understand why they put that in, but honestly, I've never had cameras just break all the time that needed to reboot. But I don't know, maybe there's other systems that it might connect to that, you know, for some reason, some third-party system, you know, has to be rebooted once in a while, and the camera has to be rebooted. I don't know. Who knows? But the use case is covered, so there you go. If you wanted to manually update the firmware, you could do that here. But honestly, if you use the My D-Link application, if there's new firmware, it'll tell you, and you can update it in there, and honestly, that's a lot easier. But if you wanted to, you could do it from here, and if there's beta firmwares, you can upload them here as well. This is the status information. This is the same sort of information that would show on that actual information screen in the actual application. You get a little bit more information here, but the status screen also shows the IP address, so that's actually another area where you can actually find the IP address of the camera. And last but not least, you have a log, and you can see where I was setting the actual the sensitivity and such. So there you go. That's basically it of the administrative the interface, I should say. The interesting parts here are the fact that you could see that they are trying to get more standards-based stuff. I mean, this stuff never worked in Linux at all, or on Firefox in general. And now it's actually working. It's a little clunky, but at least it's starting to work. So one thing D-Link does need to do, though, is they need to get their web interface for the My D-Link stuff on the internet to work, because that does not work either. And honestly, they should really be supporting some standard web technology. I shouldn't have to log into Windows or a Mac to use, you know, something on the internet. So that's something they need to work on, but at least all this stuff is starting to get a more standard space, so good stuff moving forward. Now let's reset, go back, and continue the review. This is an interesting product from D-Link. Right now, if you have, let's just say, okay, so I reviewed the 2630L in the past. It's being sold on the market still. It is, yes, it's like twice as large, it's much more heavy, and it's older, it draws more power. However, if you need two-way audio in the same form factor and such, that's your best bet still, since this doesn't have two-way audio. If you don't have two-way audio, you really can't compare. Like, if you don't need two-way audio, why are you buying that gigantic unit? This is a little bit more expensive. I think this is $140 right now retail, and I think the 2630L is probably like 20 bucks cheaper. But honestly, this will probably last longer since it doesn't draw as much power and it's not generating as much heat. So this is probably the all-around better product if you don't need two-way audio. I know that D-Link is coming out with cameras in the coming months that actually support two-way audio in a smaller form factor. So if you need that, you could wait a little bit. But if you need a 180-degree field of view camera, this is your best bet right now. For a $140 consumer camera, this has excellent optics. It's got a wide 180-degree field of view, anti-fisheye technology that they've shown off on the 2630L. Works just the same. In fact, it's basically the same thing, except it doesn't have two-way audio. And it's half the size, and it draws less power, like I said. So I think it's a nice product. If you need it, yeah, it's a worthwhile purchase. If you need two-way audio, I still recommend the 2630L over it. Unless you want to wait for some new products coming out, and they probably have two-way audio as well. ASE Labs and ASE Publishing would like to thank D-Link for supplying this product for review. You can check out links on ASE Labs and in the description below for links to purchase this product from Amazon right now. It's $140. There you go. For ASE Labs and ASE Publishing, I'm Aaron Schatz, and thank you for watching. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button right down there. It's red. It says subscribe. And you know what you should do? You're watching this right now. You should hit that. You'll be informed of all the content as we post this. I said this in the beginning of the review. But did you know we have 1-minute reviews as well? In fact, this review has a 1-minute review, which you could check out. There was a card somewhere over here that actually says 1-minute review of this product. So for instance, if you don't have a lot of time, you can actually check out the 1-minute review. It doesn't have nearly the same amount of content as our full reviews, but it gives you a general overview and what the product is about. Then you come back and watch the full review when you have time, and you'll be super informed. And remember, we'd love to hear your feedback, so please comment. Love to hear from you. Like, comment, subscribe. Especially subscribe. Keep subscribing. Tell your friends to subscribe too. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in the next one.